Hello, Internet. My name is Roro, and welcome to my channel. Today, I wanted to talk about mental health diagnosis and how that's just the beginning of the journey to healing. So, let's just get right into it. Something that I've noticed from seeing content being made about mental health on social media and also conversations with people that I know in real life, I've noticed that there's a mentality when you get a mental health diagnosis, that's it. You figured out what's going on, you got an answer, and now you can just move on with your life. But I don't think that's a good way to think about it at all because a diagnosis is essentially just a collection of symptoms that you're dealing with. And there's a lot of overlap of symptoms and there's a lot of comorbidity between certain illnesses or disorders, stuff like that. So you can't really just assume that whatever you were diagnosed with is the only issue that you're dealing with. Because someone like me, I've been diagnosed with four different mental illnesses. And over time, they've started to make sense. Some of them seem more relevant than others. But at the end of the day, a diagnosis isn't going to help you fix the problems that you're having in your life on a daily basis. There's a lot more work that has to happen for you to overcome those things. And just a label smacking it onto yourself is not the answer. And I'll get into why as well. So for me, I'll use myself as an example. I've talked about this on my channel, but I have borderline personality disorder. That's what I've been diagnosed with. This was in 2019. So it's been about 4 years that I've known that this is something that is an issue in my life, or at least my perception and the professional's perception of what I'm going through. That's what they have determined is what I have, quote unquote. So part of having borderline personality disorder or BPD is something called splitting or black and white thinking, where you have a really hard time seeing shades of gray in any situation when it comes to social life or just the world, stuff like that. And essentially, your brain can't comprehend the idea that two truths can exist at the same time. And that's also referred to as the dialectic, which is why dialectical behavioral therapy, or DBT, is what is used to help with BPD and borderline personality disorder. People that are really struggling with that, that is usually the type of therapy that they will enter into. And I've gone through DBT. I did it for almost 2 years, and it helped me so much. I would say in some ways it saved my life, but it was all sifting through trauma, sifting through issues from my past that are affecting my present, and figuring out why, and figuring out how to identify things in a more quote unquote realistic way and not so split, where it's like, if somebody says even the slightest thing that I perceive as negative or even neutral, there's times where I'll completely write that person off, even though everything else about them is positive and great and I love them. So that's just a problem that I deal with personally because of my mental illness. Now, the problem with being diagnosed and letting that be the be all end all of your mental illness struggles is that you now will just submit yourself to that. And anytime you have symptoms that are directly caused by this disorder or mental illness that you have, you'll just blame them on that mental illness and disorder instead of trying to figure out a way to move past it and to heal and to grow as a person and to be more healthy, which is possible to do. It just requires guidance and effort, which I'm not even saying people don't want to do that. I just don't think they're even aware that that is the next step, if that makes sense. And I always say you in my videos, but I'm actually talking about myself. This is advice that I need just as much as anybody else. And that's why I make these videos in the first place, is for my own benefit, hopefully. So what it really comes down to is why versus what. I think getting a diagnosis can be extremely helpful for somebody who has no perspective on what they're dealing with. It gives them a context for their feelings and for the things that they're going through and the things that they're dealing with internally. And that is very necessary to know how to move forward. But if you stop there, no more work is being done. No more growth is happening. and you're not going to actually improve your situation and your daily life because you've submitted to this idea that what you have this thing that is impossible to overcome. And I just don't think that that's a good mentality to have. Yes, things can be very, very difficult, but there's always a way to overcome those things in a way that's healthy, because there's other ways to cope with things that are unhealthy. You know, like I'll use myself for an example as again with the splitting black and white thinking with people, cutting people out of my life. That is a solution for me in the moment because it's causing me pain. If they're not there anymore, it's no longer causing me pain. But that's not a healthy way to look at people and to look at relationships. There needs to be a conversation that is had. There needs to be some sort of discourse as to why you feel the way you feel and why what the person is doing is harming you. And I hope that my specific example is relatable in some way still, because this applies to all different mental illness diagnoses in my mind. This is how I see it. This is just my opinion. This is just my perspective from my own personal experience with myself and talking to other people and observing the general discourse of mental health on the internet. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I have a bunch of other videos on my channel talking about similar topics. I put out a video every Sunday, so if you enjoyed this one, you can come back next week for a new one. And I stream on Twitch, but that's more focused on music. So if you're interested in what I'm doing with music, you can check that out as well. I also have a Discord server. Link for all of these is in the description. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video.